Why it's important to read English stories after listening for 6 months. When I kicked off my English learning journey, I didn't pick up a book right away. For the first 6 months, my focus was solely on listening. I tuned into stories, podcasts and conversations, often catching only bits and pieces of what was being said. But I kept at it, listening while I walked, cleaned, ate, and even as I drifted off to sleep. My goal was to get my ears accustomed to the sounds of English before diving into reading or writing. Initially, it felt a bit odd. I questioned whether I was wasting my time. However, after a few months, something incredible happened. I started grasping more without even trying. I could follow along with stories, feel the emotions, and even infer meanings without needing a translation. English began to sound more familiar to me, like a song I was finally able to sing along to. That's when I realized it was time to move on to reading English stories. The first story I tackled was pretty short, just 2 pages. I was nervous, thinking it might be too challenging. To my surprise, it wasn't. The words that once seemed jumbled now clicked because I had heard them so often. The listening I did for 6 months laid a solid groundwork in my mind. My eyes were finally connecting with the words my ears had already known. It felt like magic, like fitting together 2 pieces of a puzzle that finally matched. From that point on, reading became my secret weapon. Each story I explored helped me dive deeper into English. Listening had trained my ears, but reading began to sharpen my mind. I started noticing how sentences were structured, how punctuation influenced the flow, and how ideas connected seamlessly. The key takeaway? I didn't stress over grammar at all. When you're just starting out with English, grammar can feel like a major hurdle. It can slow you down and make you hesitant to speak or write because you're constantly questioning yourself. Is this right? Or did I use the correct tense? But language is more about communication than perfection. Kids learn to talk long before they grasp grammar, and we should approach it the same way. During those initial 6 months, I didn't sweat grammar rules. My focus was on comprehension. I wanted to immerse myself in the language rather than dissect it. That's why I prioritized listening first, to let English flow naturally into my brain. Then when I began reading, grammar started to make sense on its own. I didn't have to memorize rules. I could see and hear them in action within the stories. For instance, instead of memorizing the difference between I went and I have gone, I experienced them in context while reading. I could sense when each one was used. That's what real learning looks like. It's not forced. It's something you experience. Jumping into reading after a few months of just listening is like flipping the switch from sound to sight. When you dive into a book, your brain starts connecting the sounds with the visuals, which really amps up your memory, vocabulary, and comprehension all at once. Every story becomes a lesson. It's like a chill classroom where there's no pressure. I've noticed that reading really boosts my speaking skills too. When you read, you catch how people show feelings, share experiences, or start conversations. You pick up their expressions and make them your own. So when you chat next time, those phrases come out naturally, as if they've always been in your speech. Another cool thing about reading is the emotional depth it brings. Listening allows you to hear emotions, but reading helps you feel them on a whole different level. You picture the characters, settings, and scenarios, forming a connection that makes the learning stick. It's more than just remembering words. It's about recalling the emotions tied to them. One mistake many learners make is getting too hung up on grammar right from the start. They dive into thick textbooks, trying to memorize tons of rules, and then they're puzzled about why they can't speak smoothly. The truth is, grammar without context feels empty. It's like trying to master an instrument by only studying the notes without ever listening to music. You can't play well if you've never heard the song. After 6 months of listening, jumping into reading becomes way easier, faster, and a lot more enjoyable. You'll already have a sense of the rhythm, tone, accent, and emotions in English. Reading helps you visualize what you've absorbed and understand it on a deeper level. It's similar to learning to dance. First, you catch the beat. Then you move with it. Now, reading English stories has turned into a daily routine for me. I enjoy it with my morning coffee or as a bedtime ritual. Some tales are short and simple, while others are longer and more complex. But every story teaches me something new, not just about the language, but about life itself. I learn how people think, feel, and dream in English. So if you've been listening to English for a while, don't just stop there. Take the plunge. Grab a short story, or even a children's book and start reading. Don't worry if you miss a few words. Just focus on the overall meaning. Emotion and rhythm. Sometimes read aloud. Let your voice connect with the story. Feel that link between the words you hear and the ones you see. Learning English isn't a race. It's a journey. The first 6 months of listening are like planting seeds. Reading stories afterward is the sunlight that helps them grow. Together they create something wonderful, a natural and confident grasp of English that no textbook can offer. So keep listening, keep reading, and enjoy every story you encounter. One day, you'll find that you're not just learning English anymore, you're truly living it. If you liked this story and found it useful, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe and give it a thumbs up. And your support inspires me to make more videos that help you learn quicker and more effectively. Thanks for tuning in. Keep up the learning every day. Catch you later.